Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me. Today is a video that I've been promising for a long time and might finally put to bed some of the comments that I make scattered throughout all my other videos. And it's going to be my definitive top 12 favourite Napoleonic units. Now I say it's definitive, it's not really. This is my top 12 units right now at the moment. This changes from day to day. Some of them may be higher, some of them may be lower, some of them may not even be on the list. And some may make the list that currently aren't on there. So let's get started in typical classic top of the pop style. I'm going to start at 12 and work my way up to number 1 just to build the excitement that I'm sure you're all feeling here. So number 12 in my top 12 favourite units of the Napoleonic Wars are the Opolcheni. So a bit of a surprise choice there, I'm sure, for many. These guys are Russian militia, effectively. And what I really like about these is that there's two very distinct types of uniform. You've got the guys from the north, the guys from St. Petersburg, and they wore uniforms that would be perhaps more familiar on later Prussian Landwehr, because the Prussians actually copied their uniform. It was very trendy, almost, to copy the Russians after they defeated Napoleon. So they took on the uniform of the St. Petersburg militia. But my personal favourites are the Moscow Opolcheni. And they dress much more like you'd expect medieval Russians to dress. It's sort of a long grey coat and a furry hat. It's pretty cool. They all kind of look like Orthodox priests, I think. And I just like having a unit of Orthodox priests. Those of you who've seen my Russian army will see that I've converted a couple of units up from Prussian Landwehr. In fact, one of them actually contains a priest as well, giving his blessing to the troops. In one game, I was rather annoyed by my opponent by every time I failed a stamina roll by shouting priest reroll and re-rolling it. He was very impressed by that, but I thought it was funny. So, yes, in at 12 is the Russian Opolcheni. So down to 11, and it's going to be a bit of a generic choice, this one. It's the French Dragoon. Now, they're not the most glamorous of cavalry. They're not the most exciting. They're certainly not the most well-dressed. But what I really like about the Dragoon is particularly the French Dragoon, is he's a guy who took care of business. His uniform isn't flashy. His gear isn't super awesome. He's basically the guy who you turn to when you want something done. They're just basic dragoons. They're good in combat. Certainly in Black Powder they're good. Good at scouting and dismounted roles as well. They're just the guys who get jobs done. That's why I like dragoons. They're unfussy. They're not super glamorous. And as I've said twice already now, so I'd probably let you say it again, but I'm going to anyway. They're the guys who get the job done. So that's at number 11. So we're going to break into the top 10 now. So my 10th choice is the Austrian Grenadier. Now you may see a theme coming on this. There's going to be a lot of Grenadier-y type troops. And I really like the Austrian ones. I really like the models. I think their uniform of their white coat and their false-fronted bearskin hat is really good. The cap cover is different colours as well. It's the colour of the facings of the regiment. So I really like that. I like how they performed on the battlefield at the Battle of Aspern-Essling. They were attacking the granary, which was the focal point of the defence of Essling. And in the end, there was something like 48 of them left from a combined battalion. If you've seen my video, you'll know that they used to combine battalions of... they used to combine companies of grenadiers into combined reserve battalions. So there was about 48, 50-ish of these guys left. And they wanted to assault the granary again. It wasn't until the Archduke Charles himself ordered them not to that they didn't. So big up to the Austrian Grenadiers there. They take my number 10 spot. So speaking of Grenadiers and their funky headwear, in at number 9 is an army which I don't think is much represented in many people's top 10s. And that's the Spanish Grenadier. They've got a sort of mitre cap type thing. It's like a soft-fronted mitre with tassels that hang down the back over their Spanish uniform. They look super cool. I haven't got any or painted any yet, but certainly a Spanish army is next on my to-buy list, perhaps after a Bavarian army, perhaps they're after a Polish army. But they're definitely on the list. That's the important thing. Spanish Grenadiers, definitely on the list. Cool headwear, terrible army, but they look good at least. So that's number 9. Number 8, again, I'm sticking with the good headwear theme. And I'm going to go for the British Light Dragoons. Specifically, the British Light Dragoons from the early period when they wore the tarletan. I don't think there's any helmet better in the Napoleonic Wars than the tarletan helmet. It just looks cool. It looked good in the American War of Independence. It looked good in the Napoleonic Wars. It even looked good in the Patriot, because something had to look good in that film. And that was the helmet that they wore in the early part of the Napoleonic Wars, the tarletan helmet. Eventually got changed for another helmet and then a shako. But when they're in the tarletan helmets, they are superb. Love them. So, the next up in at number 7 are the Scots Greys, another British cavalry regiment. Now, these guys can go up and down on my list. If I've just been to see Sergeant Ewart's tomb at Edinburgh Castle, they'll be at number 1. If I've not been for a while, which I haven't been for a while, then they're going to be in a number 7 slot, which is where they are today. Scots Greys, they wore bearskins, which they got from defeating the household cavalry of the French during the Duke of Marlborough Wars. I think it was the Battle of Ramillies that they defeated them. So, as a battle honour, they got to wear the bearskins, uniquely for British cavalry. Certainly at that period. Later on, bearskins are obviously a lot more common in the British Army. But you've also got the Great Scotland Forever charge. You've got the painting by Lady Elizabeth Butler. Sergeant Ewart's tomb outside Edinburgh Castle is definitely worth seeing, as is the eagle that he captured at Waterloo. That's still in there as well. And when I saw it, I actually had a bit of a lump in my throat. It was quite an emotional moment. I'm not really sure why. My girlfriend certainly didn't know why. But it was the Scots Greys in at number 7. So, up to number 6. Another unusual one, but it's the Prussian Guard du Corps. Now, we don't see many of these, because we don't see many early Prussian armies out there, I guess. These guys wore, like, a bicorn, sideways, so sort of Napoleon-style-y, but it was like a ginormous bicorn, and had white uniforms. So, what I like about them is twofold. The first thing I like about them is they're a bit of a throwback to an older era. They're very much 7 Years' War, although they're obviously wearing bicorns and not tricorns. But they really do hark back to what was, by Napoleonic times, an old-fashioned style of gentlemanly warfare. And I think they really bring that with them. And one of the incidents, the second reason why I like them, is in 1806, the Battle of Austerlitz obviously just happened. The Austrians and the Russians had been knocked out of the war. And the Prussians were gearing up. Now, the Prussians had been a formidable fighting force in Europe until this time. So they were pretty confident that they would do quite well. And the soldiers, well, the officers, really, of the Prussian Guard du Corps went and sharpened their sabres on the steps of the French embassy in Berlin. And I think that is pretty ballsy. If you look on the screen now, I found a meme quite recently, which did make me laugh, especially when you consider what happened to the Prussians. But yes, it's. I'll give them that they've got stones. Unfortunately, they weren't so good on the field, and they got a right kicking. But in at 6, the Prussian Guard du Corps. So we're moving into the top 5 now. And number 5 is another British unit, and it's a British infantry unit. It's the Highlanders, particularly the Argyll and Southern Highlanders. Now, why do I say them in particular? Well, largely it's the kilts. Let's be honest. It's the kilts and the hats. As Napoleon says in the Battle of Waterloo, certainly in the film he does anyway, does Wellington have nothing to offer me but these Amazons? So, guys in kilts, that's a win from me. In fact, I'm painting up some First World War Highlanders at the moment. There are a lot less exciting kilts there. But the Black Watch were the 48th Regiment of Foot. They were the lowest numbered, so the senior regiment of the Highlanders. Their kilts are a sort of green and a lighter green. Yeah, they're a bit boring. The Argylls had red and yellow as their tartan. Much, much cooler. Really pops on the figures as well. I have seen you can buy kilt transfers for, I think it's like £5 for 5 or something. That's crazy money. But they do look very good. But my recommendation would be go for the Argylls. Just attempt the tartan. and you'll probably be alright, especially with the yellow. It really makes the figure pop. So that's number 5. Going in next to number 4, another Grenadier unit. We've had a few Grenadiers already, but this one are the Pavlov Grenadiers. Now these are distinct from any other type of Russian Grenadier because they wore the old-fashioned mitre. That was a battle honour that was awarded to them, I think, by Tsar Paul I. I'm not 100% sure about that one. But yeah, they wore the brass-fronted mitre, which is absolutely sweet. It's got the double-headed eagle on the brass. It's brilliant. And the reason why they're so high up this list, and why I love the Pavlov Grenadiers, is the mitre itself was just considered to be part of the uniform. You know, you got issued your mitre, whatever. The brass plaque that goes on the front, the fronting of the mitre, however, that was passed down through the generations. And it was key that they were unrepaired. So you might have a Russian Pavlov Grenadier marching into battle at the Crimea in the Crimean War. You might be going into Sevastopol, and on his mitre are the dints of the musket balls from Austerlitz, let alone Borodino or Smolensk or any of the other great battles of the Napoleonic Wars. And that history, that tradition of passing down that brass mitre plate, I think is absolutely phenomenal. It's a genuine historical artifact with a story to tell. Absolutely superb. I love the Pavlov Grenadiers. They always do well for me on the tabletop. Now, I don't know if that's because I have faith in them or just because the Russian rules are really good. It could be a combination of the two. But in at number 4, just outside my top 3, but, you know, they could easily squeeze in there from time to time, are the Pavlov Grenadiers. So in at 3, a very, very unusual Napoleonic unit here, and that is the Marmadukes, a light cavalry unit originally from Egypt. They were recruited into Napoleon's Imperial Guard, kind of like a bit of a fancy sideshow. They kind of showed them off. They looked good. They were impressive. It was exciting to have these foreign barbaric, as they would have seen them, troops in their formation. There weren't that many of them, but their impact was pretty incredible. When they were fighting in Madrid or across Central Europe, they were well known and well respected. Good soldiers, the Marmadukes. Originally led by French officers, Egyptians, or a lot of them were Greek, would rise up through the ranks later and become officers in of themselves. A cool unit, really interesting to paint. Quite difficult to get a hold of in 28mm. I'm surprised because they're quite a unique unit. The best ones I've found are Wargames Factory, I think it's called. No, it's not Wargames Factory. That's the old plastic ones, isn't it? It is Casting Room Miniatures. That's the one. Really nice. Quite expensive, though. £12 for 3, so not cheap. Gringo 40s do some nice ones as well. But there you go. In at 3 is the Marmadukes. So, coming in the runner-up slot. Now, as I say, this is only the runner-up at the moment. This could go up or down. But number 2, another French cavalry unit from the Imperial Guard, the Grenadier à Cheval. Now, you may have noticed on this list so far, we've not seen any Old Guard. And that's because I kind of mixed them into the Grenadier à Cheval. What's the only thing cooler than an Old Guardsman? An Old Guardsman on a giant black horse with a big sabre. I think the Grenadier à Cheval are probably cooler than the Old Guard. I could have just filled this list with Guard units, to be honest. But I thought I'd better try and get some other ones going on as well. So, in at number 2 are the Grenadier à Cheval, the Gods as they were known. In one of their battles, I think it was Eylau, they were being fired at by artillery. One of them ducked his head, and their colonel was heard to exclaim to him, "Duck your head, sir. Those are bullets, not turds." The idea being that you would only bow your head to stop yourself being disgraced, certainly not to be killed. A fantastic unit, the charge of the Gods at Eylau, a great painting, and another great incident of that battle. And again, Eylau's a funny one. Eylau's a battle that's not much seen. It's cool. I'm going to redo the Battle of Eylau at some point. But anyway, that's completely off topic. The Grenadier Cheval in at number 2. So, we've got some honourable mentions before I mention number 1. These are troops which I think are super cool, but didn't quite make it into the top 12. So that's the Paris National Guard is a really cool one. It's basically revolutionary French, but with pikes. I just think that's really cool. It's a bit silly, but I really like it. Also, not quite making the cut are the Danish Grenadiers. They look quite cool, or any of the Bavarian units, to be fair, they're also very good. The Nassau Light Infantry, and I specifically kept out the 95th Rifles because I thought people would complain if I put the 95th Rifles in. I'm not sure why, but they were very, very good troops. I think rather than the 95th, I actually prefer the 60th Royal American Rifles. There's something more heroic, I think, about leaving your homeland and going to fight for another nation. Which is also why the entire Vistula Legion could have been in there, but they're not. Perhaps even the Swiss Royal Marines. There's just so many different types of units that could have made the cut, but didn't. So who comes in as my favourite regiment of the Napoleonic Wars? Well, it has to be the Polish Lancers. I absolutely love the Polish Lancers. Everything from the Chapka to the Lance to the history of Polish Lancers. Everything. I absolutely love the Polish Lancers. They are, without doubt, my favourite regiment. I've just finished painting a regiment of the Perry's ones up, and while it's a shame their chapkas are covered, they would have been at Waterloo, and there's a lot of detail on there which I'm not 100% sure I wanted to paint anyway. But the Polish Lancers, absolutely phenomenal. The Battle of Somosierra really, for me, carved their name in the granite of genuine great regiments. I said in my video on the light cavalry of the Imperial Guard, for me, when we think of the great units of history, the Theban Sacred Band, the Praetorian Guard, the Saxon Hussars, Norman Knights, you know, all these great, famous units from history, the Teutonic Knights or the Landsknechts, the Condottieri, all these great units. For me, the Polish Lancers deserve two slots in that. One as the Polish winged hussars of the 16th century that swept the Ottomans away from the gates of Vienna, and also those who fought for Napoleon, who reintroduced the lance into Western warfare, and were just superb cavalry, great light horsemen, the match of even enemy heavy cavalry. They were absolutely phenomenal. I can wax lyrical forever about the Polish Lancers. But that's where I'm going to end the video. Well, that's where I'm going to end my part of the video. What I'd really, really like to see, if possible, in the comments, are your ideas for your top 10 or your top 12 or your top 3 or whatever, and why you think that those units are your favourite. I really want to open this out to the community. I want as many comments as possible on this, because this is purely my own personal list. It's the units that I love, and I don't expect in any way for it to be the same as other people's. Please let me know what yours are down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching the video, and until next time, goodbye.